Google search is still one of the best platforms for generating leads in commercial real estate.
True, but you have to be smart about it. A lot of companies waste money on these broad keyword strategies that end up just resulting in no or irrelevant clicks. What's the best way that people can structure it?
So what you need to do is, instead of going broad, you need to go super targeted. And in order to do that, you really need to understand your buyer journey, your user journey. So instead of using terms like commercial real estate, which will get you a lot of impressions, it's not going to generate high quality traffic to your site. So instead, using something super targeted like office space for lease in downtown Atlanta is going to get much lower volume, but much better conversion rates because those people are more aligned with your offering.
And obviously, because you're paying for it, the more targeted you can be, the better.
Exactly.
The more bang for your buck you're going to essentially get.
A lot of people that come to us complain that they spend a lot of money on Google search, but they just don't see the results. And the bottom line is that they're not seeing the results because the audience that they're targeting is way too broad. You can spend a lot less money and get far better results if you dial in your keywords. The other important thing is to stay on top of the negative keywords, because that can hurt you a lot as well. So if you're looking at your campaign stats every day and seeing keywords like retail or industrial that doesn't align with your offering, exclude those, put them on the exclusion list to make sure that that audience is not being served your ads and driving those people to your site.
So let's say someone's never played around with Google search before and they don't really understand what the intent-based marketing strategy is. Give me an example of how Google search essentially plays out in an everyday scenario.
So if you think about it, if you go to a business networking event and there's 200 people at the event, you can try and speak to 200 different people, but you're going to get far better results is if you identify the 5 or 10 people that are going to make the biggest impact to your business and target those 5 people and just speak to them. So that's kind of a nice analogy for how Google search works.
Bad example of a Google search keyword strategy would be something like office space. A good example would be something like office space or Class B office space for lease in Tampa, Florida.
Exactly.
So did you know that there is one thing that you should be doing before you're activating your spend on paid media ads? So imagine this scenario, you have a business owner, they know that their lease is going to be expiring in the next 6 months. At the back of their mind, they know that they need to start looking for retail space to lease. The problem is that marketers make is that oftentimes they're coming in at that sort of phase where that person is already searching for office space or retail space for lease, not earlier on in the journey. And by earlier on, I mean when that person first starts thinking about the potential of finding a new space for lease and where they want to maybe potentially move their retail store to. From a marketing perspective, you want to be coming in organically at that early stage and slowly building that awareness and that top of mind, so that by the time they finally sit down and realize, all right, I need to start searching for space, automatically your brand is well positioned in their mind.
So this is a question we often get with organic content, is how do you actually prove the ROI of organic content? And time after time, we've seen the correlation between an organic campaign that is aligned with a paid media, for example, search campaign. So the number of clicks, the conversion rate of that paid side is definitely increased if you do a good job of increasing the brand awareness and the credibility during that sort of early stage, as you mentioned.
So what are some good examples of some organic content that you can put out that can help you kind of stay top of mind but aren't necessarily hard sells?
So you want to stop the scroll. You want to make sure that you've got high quality video, high quality static images. You want to put time and effort into the production value of the content that you're putting out. You also want to make sure that you're looking at the analytics to see, is carousel working better for your audience? Is short form video working better? Is statics? And then also giving a lot of thinking to the post-click user experience. So once somebody clicks on that ad, where are you taking them through to? What is that experience after they click on that? A lot of times people just end their thinking with putting a piece of content out and driving traffic to the home page, where that might not be the best user experience. You want to create an experience that is going to take people to the right page on your website.
I think this is also a good opportunity for brands to start building in the value add content that they're creating. So, building a lot of content around how can you best support tenants, for example, or what's some sort of content that you can put out that helps them throughout their journey and helps, again, stay top of mindset by the time they make their decision. Maybe they're not searching for something as broad as retail space. Maybe they're searching for something as sort of more structured and targeted as retail space by X landlord.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing that people miss, is they think that social media is the sort of silver bullet for generating leads, and while it is a very effective way of doing it, you need to do the hard work initially to build that credibility and trust and demonstrate your value proposition in a way that's going to resonate with your audience. And that also shows that you understand their journey, their pain points, their needs, their wants, their desires, without just saying, I have this, and assuming that that's when they want it. So you need to think about it more from what am I going to gain versus what can I give this person to show my value.
Put simply, the best leasing strategy is one that starts to influence tenants before they've even started searching for their next retail space.
Exactly.
Not everyone who clicks on your ad is going to be ready to make a decision. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of marketers make, is once somebody has clicked on your ad and they've gone through to your landing page, for example, have you thought through the whole user experience? So when they land on your landing page, if they're not ready to make a decision, for example, fill in a form or ask for more information, what information or what are you guiding them through for the people that aren't necessarily going to click on a call to action button?
The mistake that a lot of people make with social or ads is they see it as a way to generate quick results, whether it's leads or conversions, whatever your sort of measure is. But the way that we like to see it is that social media is there for us to build a community and to build trust and credibility with that audience. So what are you giving that person in terms of the experience or value add that's going to make them more aligned or more inclined to do business with you 6 months, 2 years down the line? Because you're not going to, the chances of you getting somebody to click on an ad and convert at that very second are very low. So you need to change your mindset around what you're actually trying to achieve and how you're measuring success of your organic and paid content on social media.
That's particularly important in this day and age where people are far more reluctant to give away their contact information, for example, for nothing. You really need to be making sure that that landing page provides all the information that they need and then some before they can trust you enough with their information.
And really think about that user experience. The sort of easy option is to just direct all of that traffic to your homepage. That's what most people do, is they wire up an ad, they put a social piece of content out, and they send people straight to their homepage and just think that people will figure it out. They'll understand where they need to navigate to. But if you really map out that journey of when somebody clicks this piece of content, what page do you want them to take? What do you want them to read? What do you want them to do next? Because the ad is not the start and end of that sort of journey. You need to think about what do they do, what are those subsequent steps, and helping them and guide them through that process.
And I think remembering that sometimes people that click on your ad will know exactly who you are. They will have had exposure to the company before, so they don't need to necessarily be educated on who you are. But you're also going to have people landing on that page that may never have heard of you before. So it's a fine art between balancing, the information that speaks to your credibility and your brand and who you are, and then also providing the meaty information and what you actually want people to do, whether that's click on a call to action or submit a form or something like that. So I think it's a strategy that people need to pay a lot more attention to, and I think the problem is that we put a lot of effort into the upfront campaign and not enough on what actually happens once someone's clicked through.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert, your listing video is not going to get the kind of engagement and clicks that you're hoping for if you're opening with a drone shot and using the same corporate music that you've been using for 10 years. In commercial real estate, we see this a lot. Every single listing video has an opening shot of the property. Oftentimes it's drone footage. It's got some corporate music on the background. It pans to an aerial. We've got 1 or 2 shots of the building, and then there's a call to action. The problem is in today's world, that simply isn't going to cut it, especially with young entrepreneurs and retailers who are looking to lease space and are wanting to feel like they are part of the space. They want to know what the energy is like when they're going to move into the space. They want to know who they're going to be dealing with. And I think there's such a missed opportunity for creativity in commercial real estate, especially on social media.
Yeah, I think people in commercial real estate think that they are exempt in some way from applying creativity to their content. Like there's a special rules that apply to them. They forget that the people at the end of the day that are making these decisions, that are buying investment property, they are leasing property, are still consumers, and they're still exposed to the same kind of content and ads and that the consumer brands are, and that's the level that they expect. So if you're hoping that your drone shot with your corporate music is going to stop the scroll, it definitely isn't, and you can't be disappointed when you don't get the results that you are expecting from that piece of content.
This has been my gripe with commercial real estate and social media for such a long time. It's such a visual industry. Everything is sold on the picture of the building. So why are we not using that to our advantage? And with AI, and there's so many tools that we can use to make it a little bit more creative. And I mean, I understand that a lot of the buildings that we're leasing, oftentimes it's industrial. They're not necessarily the prettiest, the sexiest, the most attractive buildings. But that's when we can bring in the advisors and leverage their experience and turn the video into more of a sort of value add than necessarily just showcasing the property. And I think people are missing the opportunity there, and they're going to get far more engagement if they lean into the trends of 2026 and beyond when it comes to social content, as opposed to just relying on strategies that worked 15, 20 years ago or didn't even work.
Yeah, and one of the other really important things that people miss is keeping track of the metrics and all of the numbers behind all of this content that you're putting out, because you don't know what to improve on or what's working if you don't measure how many impressions, what is the conversion rate, how many click-throughs, what is the sort of ROI of this content bank. Most people just create it, they put it out, and they hope for the best, and they've got no real tangible way of proving if they've hit it on the mark or not. So
exactly,
reporting, analytics.
Because let's be honest, if your ad doesn't stop the scroll, it's certainly not going to start the lease. How do you know if your ad has done well? Oftentimes we have clients coming to us and they think that their ads haven't necessarily been successful or done well because they haven't received a bunch of high quality leads. But the problem is that a lot of times you're associating the success of an ad with the number of leads that you're getting, and that's not the only way to measure how well a campaign or an ad has done.
You're only really going to get a lead from an ad if the timing that your offer and that person's sort of requirements are perfectly aligned. And in commercial real estate, with that journey being so long, your chances of those two overlapping at that exact time is quite slim. So to measure the success of a piece of content just by one metric is pretty unrealistic. So you need to be looking at the engagement of that piece of content, like how many times has it been shared, how many people commented on it, when somebody clicks on that ad, like what is the click-through rate, what percentage of people that have seen it have actually clicked it, when they click it, what is the bounce rate on your website, so how many people click on it, land on that landing page that you've taken them to and immediately leave, versus spending more time on your website, digging a bit deeper, how long do they spend on your website, how many pages, how engaged are they on your actual website, and that is a real measure of how successful and how much you've demonstrated and proven your value proposition to that person. They might not be ready to commit and fill in a form and become a lead, but you've gained somebody as part of your audience and part of that community, which is way more valuable.
I think it's also super important that at the outset of your campaign, you're clearly defining what your objective is for that campaign as well, because not all campaigns are created equal and objectives differ depending on what you're trying to achieve. So success doesn't always mean leads. Sometimes a successful campaign, if the objective was just to generate eyeballs or increase visibility, if you got a certain number of impressions or a certain number of reach, that means it was a successful campaign. So being very clear with what you're looking to achieve at the outset, I think is
and
critical.
I think not just you being clear of what you need to achieve, making sure that all of the stakeholders understand what the job that you're trying to achieve is and how we're going to measure success. A lot of times we find frustration between the different departments and the different stakeholders because they're not aligned, and it's your job as a marketer to connect those dots for the rest of the stakeholders and showing the value of the results that you're getting as it relates to the business objective that you're trying to achieve.
And explaining how you're going to measure success at each of those different touch points to eventually get to that end goal of a successful qualified lead.
Yeah.